Hey, I'm Ray Hudson, and you are, I don't know who you are, but you're listening to Blaugrana Graham. Don't be like them kids in the Blair Witch Project and go away, all right?
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Driven Shot podcast. This is season 2, episode 13. I'm Omar, Hawwash, and here with me I've got Joav. How you doing? How you doing?
Hi,
It's been a
Omar.
little while.
Yeah, it's been a little bit while, but good to be back.
Yeah, definitely good to be back. As you might have known, we did not do this last week. We were taking a brief break, probably for personal reasons, but we're back, and we're back in action. And of course, we will be doing these every single week. So do keep in mind, of course, that these do come up every week, every Monday, and they will also be available on your favorite podcast streaming platform, whether that's Podbean, Spotify, Google, or Apple Podcasts. It's all going to be there if you do not have the time to tune in right now and watch this till the end. If you do, however, do remember that you can always submit your questions, thoughts, and opinions down below. We will deal with them as the episode goes on. So, Joav, back from the international break, Barcelona, of course, playing tonight against Real Valladolid. An encounter that could give Barcelona very much an advantage when it comes to the LaLiga standings, of course. Should they win this, only 1 point away from first place Atleti, who slipped up against Sevilla yesterday. How do you think that looks for Barcelona?
Well, I'd like to say that Barcelona really just have their future in their own hands. They depend only on themselves and what they can do today. But it has been the case in several games so far this season where actually Barcelona have been at a point where they can actually win and cut off some points from the leader, but they eventually tie or lose. So let's hope that kind of mentality doesn't show up today, and really Koeman sends in a team that can actually win this and not just go for a draw or lose against Valladolid.
No, for sure. And I think looking at the recent form for Barcelona, looking at how they've been playing and the spirit in and around the club has been really, really positive. And you can see it in the players, you can see it in the team. They're all fighting for each other. They're playing like a unit, which is something that Ronald Koeman has been really good in instilling into the team, coming in and taking over a team that, did have some players that maybe were a bit past their prime. He introduced some youngsters, even from the B team, of course, with players like Oscar Mingueza. We've seen Ronald Araujo also get more than a fair shot and has definitely proved worthy of that. I think he's been really good at introducing these youngsters at a good pace and not giving them too much pressure at once. And I think that also definitely plays a part in the mentality of the team and the energy you'll see because, of course, naturally speaking, the youngsters do have a bit more energy. And that's definitely come to the fore. And I think if Barcelona can keep their form going that they've been showing recently, and even some of their players have showcased in the international break, if they can keep this form going, I mean, it's theirs to lose at this point, really.
Yeah, I mean, completely agree with you. And also, for those that couldn't actually see or didn't catch what Ronald Koeman was saying on press conference yesterday, he said that he was going to play Lionel Messi and Frenkie de Jong. That are actually, if they see a yellow card today, they would lose. They could not compete next match. That is actually a Clásico against Real Madrid. So that really shows the importance of La Liga right now for Ronald Koeman. We have to remember Barcelona were knocked out of Champions League, so basically it's all down to La Liga and La Copa del Rey, which we are already in the final. So La Liga is right now the trophy to compete for. And
for sure.
Well, I mean, if Barca continue this 18 match without a loss, without losing, it'd actually be another really great record for Ronald Koeman. 19 matches without losing in La Liga is since December. It's a really record that speaks for itself.
No, it is. That's a very impressive record to hold, and I mean, especially you look at how obviously the general circumstances with the lockdowns and with the pandemic, and that definitely does play a role. And I think for some players as well, both in and outside of Barcelona, I think that's definitely played a role, both mentally and physically. I mean, we've seen a lot of players around the world really with more injuries than they maybe usually would have, and I think some of it also may be down to just mental fatigue of not being able to live your normal life outside of football, whether that's with your near ones or with your friends or whatever that may be. And I think that also plays a part. And looking at how things have been going for Barcelona, they've been really good at coping with that, I think.
Yep, as you said, some players that you wouldn't really think about getting injured in the past. I mean, the one that really comes to mind for me is Robert Lewandowski,
Hmm.
just like this bull of physical strength, and he went down during the international break. And I mean, we have to say, I mean, they're humans at the end of the day, and
Yeah.
also they play the game for a living, but they also play at a very very high level. They train at a very high level, especially under Flick, that we know basically transformed them in a very physical form. But I
Mhm.
mean, they do get injured, and I mean that's something that has pained Barcelona's defense a bit, but also at the same time, the midfield has really been up to the challenge as well as the attack. So I mean, it's a really good pace for Barcelona right now to face this ending of the season in such a good fashion.
No, for sure. And I think, I mean, not to look back because obviously it's easy enough to say stuff in hindsight, but if you look at the league standings for Barcelona earlier in the season, where they were eighth in the table at one point, to think that they're now genuinely competing for the title with players like Serginho Dest, who he's just joined, in the summer, and a lot of these new names coming in, or even names like Antoine Griezmann, who's been there for a while but now starting to find his footing. And you see players like that and players like Pedri, who's just come in and already making an impact, and it's really beautiful. It's wonderful to see that type of impact in a team, and it feels like slowly but surely things are, they're getting there. They're getting to that stage where they feel like they have a solid team all across the board. I think for some people, obviously the elephant in the room would be that the defense could use a bit of a lift up because of the fatigue and because of the fact that some players are aging and because of the fact that Barcelona don't have many defenders at their disposal. But looking away from that and looking at how the team has been playing, even with the lack of natural center backs or experienced center backs, it's been going really well.
Yeah, I mean, completely. We've only got well, I mean, the team has only got up to go because downwards, I don't think Ronald Koeman will let them get down, and especially if Barcelona actually get good signings or reinforce the team as they should. Especially now with Laporta, we know that we won't have that much more deals that could actually be shady, or we could actually question why they brought out a certain player. But I mean, we've only got the sky's the limit for this team right now. So let's hope that they can actually face it with that same
Yeah,
potential.
yeah, no, I mean, as you said, the team definitely right now has a lot of potential, and as you said, the sky's the limit. I think this team right now, as it is, definitely can compete for La Liga. Definitely, I genuinely do believe that there is a good chance that Barcelona can win the La Liga title and the Copa del Rey. I mean, if they can bring in the form that they've shown in La Liga and the belief and the high spirits that they've shown in La Liga and bring those to the Copa del Rey final, especially if they win El Clasico and if they win today. Obviously, if they win today, that's a good boost because that means they're 1 point away from first place. And also, it means that they're facing El Clasico on a high. Real Madrid, of course, have been having their own struggles. Several players on the injury list, and Hazard's still very much questionable whether he'll be able to partake in their upcoming matches or not. Sergio Ramos' situation has been up and down. Marco Asensio is slowly finding his form, but looking at their team in general, they've also been struggling quite a lot. And I think right now, I think Barcelona do have the upper hand going into a Clasico. And of course, this game could very much cement that, the one tonight, which of course does kick off at 9 o'clock local time. And we will have commentary here on Blaugranagram TV on the YouTube channel and on Twitter and Facebook on our social media channels there. If you can't watch the commentary or you can't watch the game, you can always tune in to our written commentary on our website on blaugranagram.com where we cover the play-by-play. All of this, of course, for free for you Barcelona fans. So do tune in and enjoy the game with us. With that out the way, of course, a name that I think a lot of people are really excited to see back at some point is Ansu Fati. And his injury, of course, has been quite strange maybe isn't the right word, but it's had quite a few setbacks,
Yeah,
to put it mildly.
Yeah. Well, Ansu Fati got injured since last November, I think, or October against Real Betis, and he hasn't really recovered. And I mean, it's really been, as you said, a lot of setbacks. People said that maybe at the beginning of February, I think at first they thought he would be back. Some people said that he would be back for the Champions League against Paris Saint-Germain. Obviously, that did not happen. But right now, I think what Barcelona should really focus on is just getting him back for next season. I mean, this season is basically has been Ansu Fati free. We played with him like for 1 or 2 months, I think. But after that, the team has really found its form without Ansu Fati. So I mean, right now, I think Barcelona should really have as priority to get him back correctly, not just force his return, but really take it over the summer, take it slowly so he can really recover. And for those that actually don't know, Ansu Fati has been in a situation like this. Back in 2015, he actually broke his tibia and fibula of his right leg, and he was out from football for 1 whole year when he was still with Barcelona in the lower categories. So I mean, that's really something that shows you that Ansu Fati has been in a situation such as this, and he has really come out on top. Because I mean, he came onto the first team and he took it by storm.
That is
So
A game.
yep. So let's take it positively. I mean, Ansu Fati can come back, reinforce the team as an actual transfer. I mean, because the team is very different with him, and
It
I
is.
mean,
It is.
who doesn't imagine strikers with Dembele and Messi and Ansu Fati? I mean, we can only dream with sometime having that formation.
No, it would definitely be an interesting one, I think. And I mean, you brought up a good point, is that he has, like when he was way younger as well, shown the mental capacity to bounce back from an injury like that. And obviously, this time it may be a bit more of a bit tougher of an injury than it was back then. But I do think that, as you said, I think the priority would be to just get him back at his own pace. Don't rush him back into this season, because realistically speaking, there's no real reason to rush him back this season as opposed to waiting until the off season. Because, as you said, Barcelona have been playing well and have been finding players, well, have been using players that have very much sort of not replaced, but made up for the lack of Ansu Fati's presence in the team. And so then when you add that to the fact that there's no Champions League football, there's only one domestic cup game, which is the final, and then LaLiga. I think the right thing to do definitely would be to just hold out and just wait until he's fully recovered, and then getting him into play maybe in the offseason if he's lucky and if he's recovered fully. Anything before that, unless he's fully fit, I think would be a risk, and I don't see, I don't think that's one that that they'll take. But obviously, I mean, the medical staff knows best, and if he feels ready before the season ends, and the medical staff says you're good to go, then obviously he's good to go. But if they did wait until next season, I don't think many people would be opposed to that, because at the end of the day, he is still a very young player, and you would want him to be at the top of his game all the time, even if that does mean waiting a month or two extra for recovering from such a horrific injury. So yeah, I mean, it's one of those things, and I would be very interested to see what our audience here thinks. So again, you can always submit your questions or opinions or thoughts down below in the live chat, and we'll deal with them as the episode goes on. So let us know what you think. Do you think that, hypothetically speaking, if we had two scenarios, which would be either rush him back so he can play before the season is over, where he would be fit, or wait until next season where he would be very much 100% fit, which one would you prefer? Because again, I think a lot of it comes down to the medical staff's assessment and, of course, his own assessment, and you can't argue with that. But if they did wait until next season, even though he would be fit now, I would not be opposed to that personally, and I don't think many other people would.
No, I mean, we have to remember he's still 18, right? 18 years old.
Yeah.
So I mean, you still have 12 years.
He has
of
at least
career.
7 years ahead of him.
Well, I mean, 10 conservatively till he's 28. He has 10, 12 years of career left. So, I mean, why rush it? And especially in a season such as this.
Yeah.
As I said,
yeah.
if he would have gone down, I don't know, right before the Paris Saint-Germain game. And the doctors would have told him, oh, you'll be ready for the second leg or whatever. And people really would have rushed him, like the Araujo situation. Because, I mean, Araujo went down like 1 or 2 games before PSG, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, let's put Ansu Fati in that situation. If people would have said, "Oh, let's rush him. We'll get back. We'll have the comeback with Ansu Fati and all that," I mean, it would have been okay. Maybe you can rush him, but at the same time, it's because it's a more critical point of the season. As you said, right now, Copa del Rey is only the final. La Liga, we have a few games to go, and especially now that Barcelona have or are in a very privileged situation to actually take a hold of Atletico and actually really put a scare on them if they win today. And they got into the situation without Ansu Fati. So we don't really know what the impact of Ansu would have been if he had stayed fit during the better part of the season. So, I mean, right now, it's just plan for the future. Don't plan for the small, long term, play for the long haul. And just get your star back, because at the end of the day, that's what he is. He's a young star. You just want to keep him for, well, basically his whole life in Barcelona if we can. So let's do that instead of just rushing him back.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think, I fully agree with you. I think not rushing him is the right thing to do. And, if the situation was different, then, you could argue that maybe rushing him back would be something that people would advise for, but there's really no reason to rush him back at this point. La Liga is La Liga, and with the players and the system that Koeman has decided to deploy, Ansu Fati isn't really a player where you're like, okay, Barcelona absolutely need him right now, simply because of the fact that there is so much quality in the roster that you can afford to miss a star player because you have so many stars that can make up for his absence. Although with that said, I think Ronald Koeman will have very interesting work and thinking to do when Fati does return, because of course, with so many names on your roster, it's going to be very difficult for him. I'd imagine he'll have a lot of headaches and maybe some sleepless nights trying to figure out who to put in the starting lineup. Because it is, especially if Felipe Coutinho returns, because he's obviously also been struggling quite a lot with his injury. And he's, I think, if I had to sum up his stay so far, I would say it's been unlucky. I mean, I remember the whole situation with when he scored against Manchester United and did what I like to call the Memphis celebration, where he put his fingers up to his ears. Yeah, and a lot of fans were like, "No, that's against us," and it's not against. I'm pretty as far as I recall, he did go out and said that it wasn't against the fans; it was against the media, because the media was constantly bashing him and putting so much pressure on him, which was true. And it's sad that a player of his quality has been subjected to stuff like that. And he's obviously not the only one. I mean, we've seen Ousmane Dembele also get a lot of talk in the press when he first joined Barcelona. And during his first season or two, he was very much criticized for the tiniest of things, such as his dress code and what he was wearing when he was watching the game from the stands, and what kind of chicken he would buy. Like, it just got to a point where it's like, just drop it, focus on the football, because that's, at the end of the day, you are a sport and news outlet, and that's your focus. And that kind of does hurt a player when it keeps happening. When it's a recurring incident, it does end up hurting the player and shifting their focus away from the game. And when they feel they have so much pressure going on, it's just, it's not easy. And I think a lot of people have said that Coutinho, a lot of people have said, oh yeah, well, he's just not mentally strong enough, which I don't think that's true at all, because you're talking about a player that's played in the World Cup. He's played in, he was captaining a Liverpool side that was doing quite well before he left, and, did even better when he left, which, you can make of that what you will, but they spent their money wisely and got players that fit Jurgen Klopp's system and what he was trying to achieve, and it worked. But I don't think it's a question of Coutinho being mentally weak. I think it's just a question of there is just too much pressure when you join a team that is your dream team, as we've seen with Ousmane Dembele, for instance, and you have that heavy price tag on you. Barcelona have done so much to get you to sign for the club, and have basically gone head to head with Liverpool to sign you and sign you mid-season. There is a lot of pressure as it is, and then to have that hefty price tag and all these expectations is just a lot. And the reason I'm bringing it up is because Coutinho is genuinely one of those players that I really hope decides to stay in Barcelona, because I think he does have a lot to offer, and I've been watching him, since his Liverpool days as well. He's one of those players where if he does leave Barcelona and succeeds elsewhere, I will be quite sad, to put it mildly, because I know he has the quality to succeed.
Yeah, I mean, we also have to. Well, I think we talked about this last time we were here, and we said about the whole issue around being such a big, having such a big transfer market. If you go on to, if you sign for Barcelona, and what was his price tag?
150?
20?
I think it was 40. I'm not too sure.
Well,
I think it was 40.
Let's round it up to 140. I mean, let's say you arrive to Barcelona and 140 million euro, and I mean, you don't really play as well as you've played in your other team, and I mean, it's a whole different league, a different system, a different coach,
team, different manager.
Yeah. So I mean, it's really difficult for any player. Some players really just fit in and click right away and just hit the ground running, but others don't. I mean, the majority don't. They have their time. They have to take their time. But that's the issue with having winter signings, because you expect them to have an immediate impact, because that's why you actually bring them on during the winter, because you need someone to have an immediate impact in that position. And, he also went through the whole Valverde saga. He actually he arrived and left under Valverde. He went on to Bayern Munich, and he actually scored against Barcelona in that infamous 8-2. But yeah, I mean, it's really been difficult for Coutinho. And right now, I wouldn't be opposed to Barcelona selling him, especially because with the formation right now, I don't see him really working out that well, especially with that mid that has really consolidated itself with Busquets, Pedri, and De Jong. The only probable substitute would be for Pedri, but if Koeman actually did that, I don't know how the fans would react to Pedri, the young star that is actually taking a lot of the weight off for Coutinho. And the media especially. So yeah, I mean, it would be I don't know how Coutinho would come out winning in a situation such as that.
No, that's a good point. I mean, yeah, I mean, you with Pedri playing like he is and fitting in the way he is, it's hard to see anyone really replacing him, Like, even if Barcelona were to bring in a new number 10, let's say hypothetically speaking, they brought in a Bruno Fernandes, I would still be opposed to Pedri not being in the starting lineup. And I think many people would, because he's fit in so well. He's playing like he genuinely has been part of La Masia, which, by the way, he hasn't. He's playing like he's been in Barcelona all his life. And it's beautiful to see a player fit in like that. And as you said, it's really different from player to player. Griezmann, it took him quite a while to fit in. Dembele, the same thing. Neymar, it took him around a season. And people were calling him a flop throughout his entire first season. Right? He came in from the Brazilian league and has then gone on to become one of the best players in the world. Right? So Suarez as well. Took him a long time. And he came from Liverpool too. I think the thing with Suarez, though, and the reason he's been a bit lucky is because he had a manager that understood him and could cater to him, Messi, and Neymar, and that's pretty much it. I mean, of course, Luis Enrique did cater to the midfield and the defense, but the main objective was get the attack to work and function. And if you have that functioning and you have a good midfield that knows how to play together and a solid defense, that's it. Like, it wasn't that intricate compared to now.
No, I mean, also, let's take into consideration that Luis Enrique still had Xavi, Iniesta, and Busquets. Yeah. Maybe not in their prime, but they still are
Xavi, Iniesta, and Busquets.
Yeah. So, and then you had Neymar, Messi, and Suarez. And I do remember that first season under Luis Enrique, Barcelona really thrived in the counterattack, something that I had never seen before, I think.
It felt very weird.
Yeah.
Because it was just these quick, direct counterattacks, and they worked.
Yeah, it was basically Messi pass it to Neymar or Suarez, the other one to the other one, and then Messi would either take a shot or just give a pass to either two, and they would just finish up.
I'm not gonna lie, it really does feel nice to just reminisce and just look back at it, because it really was an era in itself, I think, for many people at least. Like, it was a time period where Barcelona really were on top in at least in some aspects. I mean, I think a lot of people would very much argue that is the greatest trio, if not at least one of the greatest tridents to exist in football history. And as you said, that definitely plays a role when you have that type of midfield supporting, and you have that type of supporting cast. You have a defense that was very much solid as well. Whereas for Coutinho, he played under a manager that thought that left wing would be his best position. Fair enough, that's his assessment. Turns out it wasn't, though, and he couldn't thrive in the wing. When he got to play in that half space or operate more centrally and didn't run into Messi, that's when he thrived. Like when he scored that hat-trick against Levante. And looking at some of those games and looking at that, like, I still do believe that he has a spot in this team. Although I do agree it's hard to find out where that would be unless you'd have a midfield of De Jong, Pedri, and Coutinho. That maybe could work. De Jong in the Busquets role, Pedri as the somewhat box-to-box type of midfielder, and then Coutinho playing behind two strikers. Also could be, at least for me, I would like to see that at least once, just to see how that would work out.
Yep. I mean, some could argue that De Jong will actually lose some of his flair if he just played in that more defensive midfield kind of position.
Yeah. No, that is one of the reasons why I personally don't think his best position is in the three-man back line, because he has that explosiveness going forward, and that, especially because I don't know if it's because he hasn't done it too often yet, but it catches the defenses and midfields off guard every time. Yep. And he almost always just ends up in their side of the pitch or in their box.
Yeah.
Because it's just unexpected. And as you said, it would be limiting it. To playing him further back would be limiting that potential.
Yeah, because, I mean, if you play him if you give him that role, you couldn't actually expect Pedri or Coutinho in this hypothetical situation to be that defensive mid, because neither of them are really that defensive. Well, Pedri runs along the whole pitch and he recovers every ball that he can, but he isn't that player that can actually use his physique to get a ball back.
Yeah, and Coutinho has never really been a defensively minded midfielder. I mean, he can track back, but it's never really been one of the things that he does. And that's a thing as well. And I know that's an argument that a lot of people will throw, is that it is similar to what some people say about Messi, which is that he doesn't track back too often. Recently he's been tracking back quite a lot. But a lot of people's argument back before Coutinho went on loan to Bayern was that if you want to play Coutinho and Messi, you're going to need players that not only pull their own weight, but pull the defensive weight of Coutinho and Messi and make up for them not running and tracking back, and that was a problem. I genuinely do believe that with the right system in place, I do think that Coutinho can thrive alongside other prominent names in the team. But I also do think that it is a difficult thing to achieve in itself. But again, I think it would be very interesting to see.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as you said, Griezmann will have a few headaches to decide, but then again, it's good to have those kind of headaches and not kind of headaches that I don't have any players to play, or I don't know who to play because they're all terrible or whatever. So yeah, I mean, it's better to have
positive kind of headache.
Yep.
Yeah, no, it is. Let's see some of the comments here from Hayo Bro ERSMA. Sorry if I butchered your name there. He says, if we do decide to sell, how much do you think we should be aiming to sell Coutinho? That is very difficult to say, to be honest, at least for me. I don't know, because again, the market has had this inflation that we talked about last episode, which will soon be on Spotify and Google Podcasts and whatnot. It was we got a bit delayed due to some technical difficulties, but it will be on there soon. And if you've missed out on the majority of this episode, that will also be on there. So don't worry if you want to catch what we said in this episode or in the previous one, where we did have a lot of questions actually. But yeah, I don't know how much you should be. I think it really depends on which league he goes to as well, and what type of team he goes to.
I just looked up really quickly in transfer market, and they have him at 40 million. Um, let's be honest. I mean, every single team in the world right now is hurting because of the COVID situation. No fans have gone into the stadiums. A lot of merchandise
Yeah.
has not been has not been sold. So let's be honest. What team in the world can right now say, "Oh, sure, we'll pay 40 million for Coutinho that has actually played this season, has been injured, and inconsistent to say the least at Barcelona." So I don't see it happening. 25, 30, maybe for a Premier League.
The thing with that then is even then, um, I don't think he nor Barca would want to sell him for that
No.
amount. Like that's way too low. At that point, since we've already paid for him and he's willing to stay and he really wants to prove himself, might as well just give him a shot. And quite honestly, I do think that he'll end up staying. I don't see him leaving. I really don't. Because as you said, he hasn't really been performing this season because he hasn't been playing this season. Although in my eyes, when he first started playing this season after he returned from Bayern, he genuinely to me looked like one of the most consistent players on the team until he got injured. And then it all went, he hasn't played since then. But I don't think I don't see him leaving. I really don't. Although I would be. I mean, again, it really does beg the question: where would he fit in? Because he's not a holding midfielder. That's not his natural position. He's more of an attacking player, more of an attacking midfielder / second striker. And he just doesn't work as a winger in LaLiga. You can't have a player that's not, because he doesn't, he's not a player that you would define as quick.
No.
Dembele is quick. Fati is quick. Iñaki Williams, quick.
Trinca.
Oyarzabal, quick. But I mean, even Benzema, I guess you could call, he's a bit fast. But I wouldn't say Coutinho has that type of pace.
No.
To keep up with La Liga defenders.
No, definitely on the wing he wouldn't. We've seen him not thrive in that situation because left back, right backs, whoever is covering him are just quicker. They're simply quicker to the ball. They have quicker instincts, or they just anticipate what he's going to do in that open space, and they can actually catch up. If he has the advantage, still catch up. Because the Liga players are pacey.
Yeah,
so,
they are.
Coutinho has really much. Well, I was thinking of somewhat of a player to actually compare him to. I think one of the players I could actually compare him to would be like Iker Muniain of Athletic Bilbao. He's not that quick. He's small. He's really he can really dribble well in small spaces. He can actually hit it out of the box, but I mean, that would be like the closest thing. And Athletic Bilbao play with a 4-4-2, and he's actually a winger in that formation, but he tends to go into the center.
Yeah, he's more of a free roamer, Iker Muniain.
Yeah, but when you have Messi in your team, you can't tell him, "Oh, you're not going to free roam. Just stick to this plan and let Coutinho do whatever you want." I mean, you can't do that. Let's be real.
No, that's also. But then again, when you look at how people have been saying the same thing about Antoine Griezmann, and he's slowly fitting in and finding his role. But then again, doing that with one player is easier than doing it with two, right? So if you have two different players that have to not get into the way of each other and not get in the way of Messi, and Messi has to not get in the way of them, it just complicates everything.
Too complex.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's just. I just genuinely still feel like if he does leave, he will be leaving. It'll leave a bad taste in my mouth because I will definitely feel like he could have succeeded.
Yep.
How? I'm not sure, but I do think that he could have succeeded.
Well, the only way I can see him actually like fitting in, it would be some sort of a free roamer, like you said, like Griezmann has done, but without taking Griezmann out of the equation, obviously. Yeah. Or just keeping him in would be like in that formation that's 4-2-3-1. Maybe Messi on the right wing, Dembele or Fati on the other wing, Coutinho behind 9. That would be maybe Griezmann, but then you would have like 3 players that would like to play behind a forward.
You'll just not have a number 9.
No,
everyone will just be free roaming.
Yeah, I mean, that was actually one of the
No, that's what that's the same proposal I would make because no, wait, go on. I want to hear you out first.
Yeah, no, and that was actually one of the things that I saw at the beginning of the season. You had Griezmann that likes to go back to receive the ball, not as a forward nine, but more of a number 10. And then also you had Messi that actually also dropped back, and you also had Coutinho that dropped back. So all of a sudden, you saw in the a few Barcelona games that you had no number 9. You just had 3 or 4 because Pedri had also just arrived, and he also liked to play more of a 10 role at the beginning. So you all of a sudden had 4 players that like to play the number 10 role, and no number 9 or no forward players. Just Dembele sometimes up there, just like all alone. But it was really difficult at the beginning, and I think that's some of the things that actually people don't see him playing again for Barcelona. But as you said, if he leaves, it'd just be sad because he came on as one of the biggest names the biggest transfer for Barcelona history, and just leave for 100
Peanuts.
million less. The deficit for Barcelona would also be just sad.
And that's the thing. Like I mean, I am going to support him until the very end, and I'm going to support him even if he leaves. I'm going to support obviously after he leaves because I genuinely do think that he's a quality player and has a lot to offer. I do think he'll stay, but I think that really depends on his recovery. If he takes another 5 months to recover, then obviously that's different. But if he takes a month to recover and gets a few games in towards the end of the season and does show promising signs, then I could see him staying. Because again, I don't think Barcelona would be, open to selling him for a very low price, and I don't think he'd like that either.
Yep. Let's also remember that actually last preseason, Koeman actually called him up and told him that he was in his plans, that he was a player that he had taken into consideration. But I mean, also let's remember, if he did stay but couldn't play for Barcelona, maybe another loan would be good for him. But then again, a loan to where? Maybe to a potential buyer.
Which I think is, I feel like that maybe was what was expected with Bayern, at least in some aspect of it, was that he would go there and then they would buy him. Obviously that didn't happen, and he returned. But I mean, I don't know. I just, for me, it's a situation where I genuinely do feel like he can succeed. And I think he can succeed under Ronald Koeman as things are. I do believe that is possible. I think it does take a lot of tinkering in the lineup and in the system. And obviously, Koeman and his side are still trying to find the system that fully works. And as we see, he's still experimenting. He's still trying out new things, which is really, really nice to see. Given the youngsters that maybe would not have had a chance, just a season ago, giving them a shot and a fair shot at that as well. We've seen a lot of good things come from it. Oscar Mingueza has really come to the fore. Ronald Araujo, Serginho Dest, of course, signed from Ajax. Firpo is being introduced to the team again, which I personally really like, and he's done well whenever he's played. And I mean, I think it's going to be very interesting to see where this goes. But I definitely think that this season is going to be a very interesting one. And I think next season will be even more interesting once Koeman has had his say in any potential transfers, and what that team will look like after the transfer window is closed shut. So I think that's going to be a very interesting thing to look at, and who knows, maybe Coutinho will stay.
We'll have to see. I mean, we can talk about it all we want here, but at the end of the day, he could stay, he could leave, whatever. But we'll see in the future. I mean, that's it. Yeah. At the end of the day, he'll have his say. Koeman will have his say, and also the board with Laporta now will have their say.
No, for sure. And with that, I think we have had our say. We're close to approaching the 40-minute mark, and I think that is a good time to end this episode. This has been episode 13 of season 2 of the Driven Shot podcast. It's been aired on Blaugranagram TV and Blaugranagram social media channels, Twitter and Facebook. If you missed out on the majority of this episode, or if you just like to, listen back while you work, you can do that. It will be on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you like to listen to podcasts. This episode and the previous episode that we made will both be on there very, very soon. As always, if you did enjoy this, do drop us a like, follow us if you don't already, or subscribe, depending on the relevant channel you're on. if you're listening through a podcast streaming platform, do drop us a rating or follow us on there. And your support and your attention is much appreciated. So thank you very much for tuning in. Joav, do you have any last words before we head off?
No, just hope that everyone is keeping safe right now with this situation. And, well, as you always say, keep safe and sane.
Yeah, stay safe, sane, and well.
Yeah, that's all from me.
Awesome. And yeah, stay safe, sane, and well. We hope you're all, staying indoors as much as you can and taking your precautions and keeping an eye out. So with that, we'll see you next week. Thank you very much for tuning in, and roll that outro.
My name is Phil Shane, and you've been listening to The Driven Shot, hosted by Omar Hawwash and the Blaugranagram news outlet. Thanks for tuning in, and we hope you have a wonderful day, and hopefully we'll see you again soon.